People of the internet, you are welcome. We have saved cinema.
Don't do something you're going to regret for the rest of your life. I ain't got nothing but regret.
Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Keystone Film Review. We just saw Killers of the Flower Moon. Directed, of course, by Martin Scorsese. Written by Eric Roth and Martin Scorsese, based on a book by David Gran, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Lily Gladstone, Jesse Plemons, Tonto Cardinal, John Lithgow, Brendan Fraser, Jack White's in there for a minute. This is Martin Scorsese's latest movie. I love Martin Scorsese. Do you love Martin Scorsese?
I do love that man.
And so
his big sexy eyebrows.
Yes. Oh, those caterpillars.
Him and Eugene Levy could construct many villages with those things.
Yes, hatched roofs and everything.
Yeah.
This was one of my most anticipated movies of the year for many reasons. Martin Scorsese, Brendan Fraser.
Stacked cast.
Martin Scorsese, Brendan Fraser, as I already said, but they deserve double mention. And I really enjoyed this. I definitely think that this is a movie that a lot of people, especially like hardcore Scorsese fans who only like his stuff that he made in the 90s, probably won't like. But they might like it a little more than Silence.
Yeah,
but
I think at least what it looked like from the crowd is it was a lot of kind of younger dudes. So I feel like they were probably expecting something more along the lines of his usual gangster stuff.
And it's closer to that than Silence is. I personally love Silence. I think it's a masterpiece. But
damn it, it was.
Yes.
But judging from the crowd, it seemed like that's probably what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But it was definitely more on a slower pace of it.
Yeah.
Of at least the gangster stuff than like Silence was.
Yeah.
But not to that extent of a different movie that Scorsese does.
So this is based on a novel of the same name, which is about the Osage murders in the 20s and 30s, I want to say.
This was in 19...
well, some of it was in the 20s, for sure.
It was in the 20s.
And it was committed by William Hale and his gang, which included his nephews and other people. And, it was a whole thing. They essentially were killing them because they wanted to...
They're trying to get that inheritance, baby.
Trying to get that inheritance. They're murdering people that one of the nephews was murdered or married to so that they could get the inheritance. I think it's a really kind of powerful film in a way. I know you think it's a little too long. We can talk about that a bit.
We'll get that in a minute.
But I think that it does a really good job, even though that Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro are the two main characters in this. You hate them pretty much the entire time.
Practically from the get-go, half-hour mark.
So it's definitely not a movie that is forgiving of their actions. So I really appreciated that aspect of it, where you were just like, it put you in the mindset where you're untrusting of every single white person within this because of these murders that keep happening in this community. I really like that aspect. It made it more interesting than it otherwise would have been if it was just, made you trust them for some reason.
Yes, I like the fact that it had a pretty big Native American cast as well.
Absolutely.
That they didn't just use white people.
Yeah. Again, in the 90s, that probably would have happened.
Yeah, big time. Or if they would have used them, it would have been just really bad.
Stereotype?
Yeah, stereotyping. But going back, I think this movie is genuinely really good. I enjoyed the whole thing, but it's 3.5 hours long. I feel like even just 3 hours would have been fine. Not even cut it down to 2.5. It doesn't need to be 3.5 hours. I think what is in there was enjoyable enough. I didn't fall asleep. I wasn't dozing off. I was enjoying the movie. But I feel like, in a way, it could have been at least shredded down just a little bit. But nothing, absolutely crazy. I enjoyed the whole movie. It was really good. I don't enjoy it as much as a lot of his other stuff. But, this is a different type of movie, just like Silence was. But I don't think it was on that level of greatness that Silence was, in my opinion. It was close. was damn close. It's still a great Scorsese movie, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a thought processor as far as sitting on it goes.
I disagree. Like I see where you're coming from with that. I disagree. I think that the runtime is perfect. I think it was very well paced. I also like slower movies than most people, so I completely understand people that would think that. I'm not going to fight tooth and nail saying that this is the perfect length, but it worked for me. I think every piece of that film was necessary in a way, so I don't really know what you would cut. And I know I read, I don't know how true this is because I read it from a headline, and we know how headlines are, but I read a headline that said Martin Scorsese kind of was inspired by the pacing of Hereditary and Midsommar and Beau is Afraid for the pacing of this. And usually I feel like his pacing is a lot slower, just like from his older films. Like he likes to let things breathe more. And while things did breathe in this, it definitely felt more fast-paced than he normally would have. I think I read at one point the movie was 5 hours long.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he cut it to 3.5 hours.
And that definitely would have needed an intermission.
Yes, and so I think that, kind of being inspired by a younger filmmaker's pacing definitely helped him in this case, if that is true. Again, I read it from a headline, didn't read the article because I didn't have time, and then I lost the article. So I am not entirely sure how true that is, but if it is true, it was noticeable because it definitely felt faster than other Scorsese movies. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think the acting is just fantastic in it. Lily Gladstone, who plays Molly, who is Leonardo DiCaprio, she is the Osage woman in question that Leo marries and then is like the victim in all. Well, there's many victims, but she's like the primary victim within this. And she's in a couple episodes of the show Reservation Dogs, which are like two of the best episodes that there are within that show. So I was glad to see that she got a big role in a Martin Scorsese movie, and hopefully it'll boost her career.
Yeah.
But she was fantastic. Leo was probably the most morphed. Like he didn't really, I feel like all of his movies he kind of feels like Leo a little bit. Mm-hmm. In this, I feel like he tried to do more to disappear in the role, to use a kind of definitely pretentious term.
You got that sling blade jaw going on.
Not Kaiser Blade. Using Kaiser Blade. And then Robert De Niro was also great. I mean, he didn't disappear as much as Leo did, but what he made a character of it, and
he got into that Freemason character.
The one thing I liked about one of the many things I liked about this is kind of a gangster movie, kind of with the liking of like Goodfellas or anything, but something about it, I don't know if it's the people or the accents or whatever, but it just makes all of the gangsters in this seem so stupid. That kind of made me think back at all the other gangster movies. I'm like, they're all kind of stupid in a way. Like, yes, they're smart for getting away with it for as long as they did, but like, they do stupid things a lot. And it kind of added a much needed layer of humor, because otherwise this would have just been a bleak 3.5 hours. Yeah. And it's not humor that makes you like the characters either. It's just like, man, this guy's really fucking stupid. So it was, I feel like that was needed. Really, my only complaint is that the score is kind of repetitive, and I don't want to say it doesn't add much, but it could have been more.
It's just kind of background guitar, kind of rhythm guitar.
Yeah, like it fits the world and the film, but I feel like it could have been better, personally speaking. Yeah. I personally...
Well, after you hear the first one, it kind of just blends in a little too easily.
And, I mean, that's kind of a good thing. You're not really supposed to notice the score. Yeah. I just love me some good music, and I will not be listening to this score on anything.
Wonder if it'll be different without watching the movie. Just scoring your real life.
Maybe.
With some nice rhythm guitar.
Who knows?
I don't think it was banjo.
No, it sounded like electric guitar. It wasn't. Yeah. I don't even think it was acoustic. I think it was electric. But I'm also not an expert, so I could be wrong on that.
Kind of like that westerny guitar.
But I feel like it's a very clear movie. Like none of it's ever confusing. Yeah. Except for one part
There was one part we were very confused at.
Yeah, but you find out, we were just impatient. You find out 30 seconds later who the person that is in question is.
Yeah.
We're just like, is that so? That doesn't make sense if it's so-and-so, but then...
Well, it still doesn't make sense why she or they with that person. At least why the, said persons would let that person be with that person. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yes, yeah.
Especially if they're involved in the crimes. But hey, I don't know. Whatever, man. They wrapped the movie up in a nice way. That's not like a text scroll recap. They kind of did this like a true crime, like a
radio show,
a
live radio show, like
that they used to do in the past. And,
sound effects and everything.
They still do it.
Jack White's in that, and I was like, "Is that Jack White?" It doesn't look like Jack White, but it does look like Jack White.
No. He got short hair there. And
I was like, I think that's fucking Jack White.
But there was a pretty clever way of kind of like recapping, at least not showing another half hour of everything that happened, or doing a text scroll. It was a nice way of kind of showing you a different way to tell you about the things that happened in like a 5-minute span, if that.
Yeah, I think it was way more powerful than just a text scroll too, because you have people reading the words. Granted, it's a radio show. I don't know how much of it is accurate, but there's it's like essentially like what happened to the characters afterwards, and it's just done in such a way that feels so respectful, but also shows that like these people's tragedies have kind of been entertainment for decades for people. It kind of makes you question what we think about when it comes to like true crime stories such as this, and how we consume them and everything. And
it felt really respectful when Martin Scorsese was kind of telling a good portion of it.
Yeah.
Like the music kind of dimmed down a little bit, and then he's trying to tell everything about like what happened to Molly after, and all like their kids were with her when she eventually died. Not even like 15 years after all this happened. I don't even think it was 10.
It's really it really makes you just hate this country in a way. Not in like a hate it for what happened, not necessarily hate it today, though I kind of hate it today, but I also understand that every country has
how
its
it was built to today's
and how murders of Osage people were not taken seriously because they're Osage people. That's really the thing that should piss everyone off, and if that doesn't piss you off, then you're fucking evil. And it's just a lot of it was kind of comparing it to the Tulsa massacre, which I believe happened in 1920.
I even mentioned that in this.
Something that most people, I'm assuming you, probably didn't learn about until 2020.
Yep.
At least in depth. It might have heard it in passing, and it was just like, oh
wow.
Wow, massacre. Okay, whatever. But yeah, it's the whole race side of it, with certain white people not being able to accept the success of Osage or African American people or what have you. So yeah, it's a dark film. Doesn't really give you a lot of hope. Not that it needs to. But it tells the story in a very respectful way.
And it doesn't glorify them white people.
White!
Asshole white people. Right from the riff, you do not like any white person.
You don't trust a single one. You don't trust a single one.
Not that you should, damn it. They're fucking terrible. All of them. But we were like, man, Leo's kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so is Robert, man.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's such a well-made film. I mean, obviously, with Scorsese, you're going to get well-made. Even if you don't like the film, you're going to get it well-made. And I think this is probably one of my favorites of his. I just saw it. I'm on the high of just seeing it, so I got to kind of let it settle and rewatch it multiple times, because I do be doing that sometimes.
It's a long multiple times.
Hey. After watching the 5.5 hour cut of Fanny and Alexander, 3.5 hours felt like nothing.
I think it's really good. I've got really no quarrels with it other than the runtime. But even that,
which I understand, even though I disagree.
Again, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I again, on the high of this might go down. I don't think it would go up, but I'm optimistic that it will stay at this because I really liked it. I think the cinematography is beautiful. Acting is great. The writing is great. I think it's really well paced. I love that if this is true, Scorsese took inspiration from a younger filmmaker's editing style, or I know he didn't edit them, but like his pacing style. So to show that like such a seasoned filmmaker as Scorsese can still be learning things from younger filmmakers is inspiring, to say the least. And it's noticeable in my opinion. And so I'm going to say 4.5. Again, could go down. I don't think it will go up, but I really like this movie a lot.
That is ambitious, my friend.
Yes.
Very ambitious and very respectable.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna say 3.5. I was aiming 3 or 3.5. Would love to give it a 4, but I think a 3.5 I think it's solid. Because I know if I do give it a 3, I'm going to hate myself later for doing that. I'm like, it was better than that, Glenn, you ass hat.
A lot of our ratings for me personally, get changed at some point.
Yeah. So, I mean, at least like the last month or so, I feel like I've been like hesitant on wanting to give a score. But I don't know.
I feel like I've been that way this year, but this is
We've also just had a weird couple movies where we're like, oh, we got to sit on that.
Yeah.
So... Oh, 3.5, I think, for this one for sure.
That's the one downside of doing these right after we watch them, is that we haven't had time to kind of like digest them. But also, we're never going to have time to meet up and do them in person. So
we're busy fellows.
If you saw Killers of the Flower Moon, tell us what you thought down in the comments below. Did you trust any of them whites? When they're racist white people, you got to add an extra H.
Yeah, each H is the amount of disrespect you got for them.
But yes, let us know down in the comments, and we will let you know what we think of another movie in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.